Hello everyone and welcome to Easy Mini Painting with me, Christopher Ridge. So here we're going to be looking at the Doom guys that come with the Doom board game. They should be a pretty good starting off point for the Doom board game. They're fun to paint and they're pretty straightforward. So let's quit dilly-dallying and let's get on with it. Alright, so the first thing that we will have done was we would have just done a base coat of white. Now you've got a couple of options when you do this. You can either just take a regular white paint, so you can just take like a matte white like that, or you can take a spray primer like this. This is what I used right here. This is a, oh, there we go. You can get this spray primer. It's just a little bit easier and it helps you do the whole priming job much more easily. After that, we're actually going to start on all of the guns. Now, the chain gun has a regular sort of gunmetal sort of color to it, so we're just going to use, you guessed it, gunmetal. Now, you don't need a lot of paint for this particular step, so I'm just going to get out, you know, one or two little drops right there. And it doesn't really matter what brush that you use here. You can use a regular standard size brush, you can use a somewhat larger one. You don't need to worry too much about details right now. But we're just going to cover the entirety of the chain gun. I'm looking at this handle right here on the chain gun, and it kind of looks like maybe there's a little bit of an extra sort of handle thing coming along the outside, maybe as like a knuckle guard sort of thing. So I'm just going to paint along that whole knuckle guard like that. Alright, that's pretty much it for the chain gun, so now it's got a nice gunmetal look to it. Alright, the only other thing that we're going to use the gunmetal for is the actual grip on the chainsaw here for Charlie. Alright, and that's it for that. So I'm going to rinse off the brush that I was just using completely. And the next thing that we're going to move on to are the plasma rifle and the combat shotgun, as well as the blade for the chainsaw itself. And for that, we're going to use a lighter metallic color. This is going to be a shining silver color right here. Now, I would say that if you are starting out and maybe you don't have the same paint set that I have, you know, the big Army Painter paint set, then don't worry about it. You can just use one single metallic color for all of the weapons across the board here. This is just a little bit of variety. Not too much, but it just, you know, mixes things up just a little bit. But again, if you've got limited resources and you've maybe only got one metallic color, then you can just use the same metallic color for all of the weapons. It doesn't really matter. It's up to you. Alright, so we've got a nice shining combat shotgun right there. Gonna do the same thing with the plasma rifle. Alright, that's it for the plasma gun. And then, like I said, we're going to go ahead and get the chainsaw blades here as well. Alright, and easy as that for the chainsaw. So we're going to rinse that brush off. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and paint all of the various pouches and sort of magazine holsters that they've got. So like Charlie here, he's got a couple right here, little magazine pouches on his right thigh there, and then he's got a big one on his left thigh. And all of the different Marines have that to some extent or another. You know, he's got it same here with Bravo. Looks like Alpha has it. Wow, they really are just all the same, aren't they? Delta's actually got some on his chest right there, so... oh, and so does Charlie as well. Anyway, well, yeah, anyway, so that's what we're doing next. So I'm going to use this monster brown color right here, and I figured that this will basically just be like a, you know, standard brown leather canvas color. Doesn't really matter. What we'll do actually is we'll go ahead and make use of that paintbrush that came with the big Army Painter set that we have. It's not the best brush ever, but it is a little bit more detailed for what we're going for, so we'll go ahead and use this. Yeah, it's simple as that. You don't need to do anything too crazy or too in-depth. Alright, so there's Charlie. He's got his pouches on there, so those look good. Let's move on to the next random one that I grab here. This is Alpha. Alright, Alpha doesn't have any on his chest right there, so that's it. He's just got those two pouches. So now we'll move on to Delta. Alright, that's pretty much it for Delta right there. He's got these pouches on his right thigh. They're kind of hard to get to behind the chain gun. Just do the best that you can, but honestly, because the chain gun covers it up so much, if you just completely ignore them, I don't think anybody's gonna notice. But, you know, that's our little secret, so, you know, that's up to you. Alright, so, now we'll just go ahead and finish up here with Bravo. Alright, and then that's it for Bravo. So that's pretty much all that we've got to do for the magazine pouches and the guns. So I'm going to rinse that brush off. Alright, and there's one more weird kind of thing that we're going to do, and that's with all of these kind of chest pieces that they've all got on the left side of their chest right there. It's kind of interesting, actually, because those aren't on any of the artwork for the different characters there. You see, they don't have that big chest piece on the left side of their chest there. But they've all got them, and I figured that we would just do a little bit of a slightly different... Yeah, it's kind of covered up there for Charlie, but it's there. So we would just do something a little bit slightly different, and what we're going to do is we're going to take out some weapon bronze right here. So it's just a, you know, bronze, goldish color kind of thing, and I think that that will just be a little bit of variety without being too distracting. Alright, that one brush that we were using was working out pretty well, so let's just continue to use it. The other thing that I want to stress, too, about this particular part right here is that if you don't want to mess with it, you don't have to mess with it. You can just keep it the same sort of white color that the rest of their armor is like. And I don't think that that will really make a huge difference. That's up to you, though. You know, obviously these are going to be your miniatures when you paint them, so you can do whatever you want with them. But I'm just going to do a little bit of a special something here, just to add a little bit of variety. Now, like I said, the one here for Charlie is kind of covered up a little bit, but just do the best you can. Or, you know, again, like I said earlier, if you just want to leave it white like the rest of the armor, that will be A-okay. Alright, and that's it. Okay. Alright, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and get some shade going on all of these miniatures. Now, as they are, with the just, you know, flat tone, you know, the flat white right there, they all look a little bit flat. They don't quite have a lot of depth to them. So what we're going to do is we're going to take out one of the quick shades that comes with that Army Painter kit, and we're going to use this dark tone. This is basically just a pure black tone right here. Now, if you don't have Army Painter, there are other brands that you can get that will be the same sort of thing. Like, I don't have a great color for Game Color here, but Game Color has some washes. You would basically just want to get like a black one. Don't use this one. This is for skin tones and that kind of thing, that sepia shade right here. A good example is this Citadel brand Nuln Oil right here. Again, it's just all black. That's what you're really looking for. You want to get some black into the crevices here. But what makes these shades, these quick shades, a little bit different is that they're very, 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 very thin and runny. And the way that they work is that they actually sort of seep into the crevices of all of the miniatures. All of the little low contours, all the lines, all the little cracks in there are going to get darkened up, which is what we're looking for. So we'll take out this dark tone right here. This is basically just a black shade, black quick shade. All right. Doesn't really matter what type of brush that you use for this. It's kind of up to you. I'm just going to take a ratty old no-name brush right here, and I'm just going to use that across the whole miniature, and you're going to see it sort of seep into these cracks here. Actually, let's do Delta first, since he was the first one that we did with that chest piece, because I want that to be completely dry. But yeah, you can kind of see it starting to give depth to the miniature. The reason why I wanted to do these Marines first before all the monsters is because they're actually very, very easy. They're very straightforward. Because all you really need is that white base coat, and then you just use a dark quick shade like this, and that's most of the miniature, to be honest. I mean, yeah, you're going to have some random details here and there, like the, you know, ammo holsters, the you know, the little chest pieces there, the actual weapons and all that. But for the most part, it's very much just a base coat plus quick shade, and that's your mini. And that's why I wanted to start with the Marines, is because they're a really, really good starting point for the Doom board game. Alright, yeah, that's it for Delta, pretty much. Alright, now we want them to completely dry before we move on to the next step, which is going to be color coding them, basically, you know, doing the steps taken to give them their actual coloring and all that. But yeah, we'll move on to that in a little bit. Need to get out a little bit more, though. Turns out you're going to need a fair amount for this. Just a few drops, though. You know, don't like squeeze the bottle aggressively and have it just spurt all over your surface there. I'm going to change up my brush just a little bit. Get one with a little bit more of an edge to it, a little bit more of a point to it. Let's go back to Bravo, what we were doing here. Alright, that's it for Bravo there. Alright, now another thing that I just realized that I hadn't touched on yet was that another thing that you can do is you can actually thin down that wash even more than what it already is. And the way to do that is that you would just take, you know, your regular brush right here, just dip it into the surface of your water there a little bit. You don't want to get too much water in there. Then you can just mix it in with your little puddle there. And that will thin it down even more, and that will help it sort of recede into the crevices even more easily. That's up to you. You don't want to go too crazy with it. You don't want to go, you know, overkill on it. But it is something that you can do. Yeah, there we go. That'll be fine. Alright, so now I'm going to rinse off my brush completely. And the next thing that we're going to do, actually, is we're going to let them dry. Now, give it some time. You want to make sure that they are fully dry before moving on to any next step. Man, they kind of look like stormtroopers right now, don't they? Just with their white armor and their dark shade there. Okay. But yeah, like I said, just let them dry. Give them plenty of time to do that. Come back in a little bit. Alright, and with those guys being all completely dry now, pretty much, I mean, there's a little bit of, no, actually, yeah, they're pretty much completely dry. They look a little moist in between some little creases and crevices there. But for the most part, yeah, those guys are dry. So, now we're just going to finish up with the sort of decals and the color coding for each one. As you can see here, they've all got different colors, and we're going to go ahead and try to implement all of those. Let's go and start with Delta, since we've got the card there. So I'm just going to take out some Greenskin right here, just a regular old green color. That's basically what that is. Alright, and I think that we can safely just continue using that regular Army Painter brush that came with the paint set. Okay, now, what you can try to do is you can go ahead and emulate the details on the actual armor there. So if you want, you could take that sort of grid design, the sort of, you know, whatever, and you can try to do that over the plate. Couple things that we'll run into with that is that this artwork doesn't have either the pouches or that chest piece on there, like we were talking about earlier. So because of that, you don't really need to worry about emulating the exact armor pattern. What's really important is just the color coding. That's what you want to match. And I would say that the biggest emphasis are probably going to be on the shoulder pads. And again, you don't really need to worry about specifics at all. You just want to make sure that you've got the right color. And what I'm going to do, and this is the part where, you know, you can kind of take liberties into your own hand. You can kind of do whatever you want to do in terms of what design, how you want to implement it. I would say just, you know, make sure to paint the actual plate pieces and not, you know, the dark lines on the, you know, deep within the armor. Just try to keep it, you know, as close to, you know, the exterior shell of the armor as possible. So like right here, I'm just going to be doing basically a little design around the trimming of this shoulder pad right here. But you know, again, you can do realistically whatever you want. It is 100% up to you. Yeah, just something like that kind of gets the general gist of what you're doing there down. We'll go ahead and do the same thing with the other shoulder pad here. Alright, and then for the helmet, why don't we just go ahead and do, I don't know, let's do just this sort of muzzle piece right there. You know, again, this is the sort of part of the miniatures where you can kind of take your own artistic liberties and do really whatever you want in terms of the designs. in terms of where the, the color coding paint goes and all that, that is 100% up to you. It is whatever you want to do. And we'll go ahead and do the top sort of stripe here on his actual helmet. We'll go ahead and get the little tops of his little gauntlets right here. The other thing is that you don't want to go too crazy. You don't want to just go all out with this green paint on the armor here, because again, it's mostly white armor with some green, sort of highlights and coloration. So that's the only thing to really keep in mind. We'll go ahead and do the... Oh, there's a cat on the table here. That's okay. Hey, Toki, just be peaceful. Be careful, please. Oh, you're in my light, boo. You're in my light. Oh, you're knocking my light around. Okay. I think I'm just going to need to shimmy you off the table. So yeah, let's do this little knee pad right here. And then after that, I would honestly say that that's all that I really want to do for Delta. Toki, you are a persistent kitty, aren't you? Alright. Yeah, I think that that's pretty much all that I really want to do with Delta, so I'm going to call that with Delta right there. I'm going to rinse the brush off and move on to the next color. Alright, now I've got some blue out here. This is just a crystal blue color. And let's move on to Bravo, because he's got that blue coloration going here. Toki, you're in my light. Boo. Come on. Alright. And then kind of contrary to what we did with Delta right there, oh, Toki, now you're stepping in my actual paint. Boo. You need to... You're an annoying cat right now. So let's do the centers of those big shoulder pads right there. And again, like I said earlier, do whatever you want. You can do whatever you want design-wise. Like I said, the only thing is that I would say don't go overkill. Don't go painting every single armor piece with the coloration, because then you'll sort of start to lose the white coloration of the armor that I think it's supposed to sort of have. Alright, and then on the back, which we didn't do very much of on Delta, let's go ahead and get the back of his armor here. There's some pretty prominent pieces on his butt. Yeah, nothing too fancy. And if you want to, by the way, one thing that I'm doing is that I'm doing the paint designs, like where the paint is actually going, the coloration, a little bit different on each one. If you want, you can get, for the most part, consistency. Their armor is pretty much the same on all the different Marines. The only things that are really different are the helmets. But that's up to you if you want to do, the same pieces of armor getting colored. Whatever, like I said, that's 100% up to you. There you go, so there's Bravo and Delta. Alright, next up, let's move on to Alpha here. And Alpha's got a red coloration, so let's use this dragon red color. Toki, if I let you hang out on the table here, do you promise not to get in the way again? I don't know if he promises that, but we'll see. Now, another thing you may be asking yourself, why are we doing the color coding after we did the Quickshade? Just because when you do the Quickshade, it kind of brings into perspective a lot better the different armor pieces and all that. So it becomes a lot clearer what spots of the armor are supposed to be sort of like plates, and which places are just sort of, not to be emphasized as much. It just helps to sort of bring into perspective what should and what shouldn't be painted or whatever, It's just a personal preference kind of thing. If you want to, you can just do all the color coding before you do the Quickshade. But I just like to do the Quickshade before, because it sort of makes it clearer, to me at least, what spots of the armor need some more color and which ones do not. Again, though, it's a personal preference thing. And by the way, if you are doing some somewhat more precise details like this and you find yourself struggling to keep your hand steady, Toki, stupid tail. One of the things that you can do is you can just do what I'm doing right now, where I've got my wrists or my forearms just resting on the table completely. Because if you got your arms up in the air like this, you can see how much more, you know, like I'm trying to hold as still as I can, but you're just gonna shake. You're just gonna shake more. But if you just set your arms down on the table, then you'll find yourself being able to steady your hands much more efficiently. You can even do things like take one of your fingers on your hand here and sort of brace against the miniature, and that is even more steady. So that's just one thing that you can do. Toki, you got, like, actual... Okay, it's time for you to go. Alright, so now I just close the door on him. We'll see if he starts to meow at me. Alright. And I think that that's pretty much all that I want to do with Alpha there. I think that that will be just fine. Alright, now we're getting into slightly trickier territory, though, because now we're moving on to Charlie. And if you have that Army Painter 50 paint set that I've got there, the Mega Paint set, then you actually don't have a great color for him. Because you can use this Demonic Yellow, but if we look at his original art, here we go, it's just a little bit too bright, it's maybe a little bit more orange, and this is almost there, but, you know, it's a little bit off. What you can do is you could take, like, this fire orange color here, and then this desert yellow, or you could take the fire orange and demonic yellow, and you can kind of mix them a little bit. Or you can just take either of them, literally any of these singular colors, and just do it, and I think that, honestly, it will be fine. If you want to do the orange, that'll look just fine. If you want to just do the yellow, that will probably also look fine. But I just don't want the yellow to be super bright, because yellow is a very, very, very commanding bright color. So I'm going to take a little bit of this lava orange, just a little bit there. And then we'll go ahead and take some demonic yellow. A little bit there as well. Alright, and what I'll do is I'll actually just mix them up a little bit. Until I get a color that I want. There you go, that's looking a little bit better. That's a little bit of a... Yeah, that's not too bad. Can kind of compare that there. And that's a little bit more in line with what we're looking for. Alright. I've got a lot of paint on this brush here. Let's be careful. Let's actually wipe off some of it. There we go. Alright, let's do the top of the helmet. Alright, and I think that that's about all that I want to do with Charlie right there. Actually, maybe went a little bit too intense with some of the yellow on him, but that's okay. And yeah, that color seems to match pretty well the artwork there. It's a little bit different, but it's pretty much the same thing. You get the general gist. Okay. Now we're almost done. We're just going to wrap up. Honestly, you know, if you want to do any more, you know, kind of fine detail stuff, you can take like a gold color. You know, you can take like this you know, greedy gold color right here if you wanted to. Just basically a really bright, shiny new gold color. And you could go over some of the visors. Like Charlie here has a pretty prominent visor. Delta does kind of too, a little bit right there. You can kind of see. Alpha and Bravo don't have it quite as much, but they're weird. they're weird. So you can do that. I'm not going to, because what we're going to try to focus on is just well, you know, easy paint jobs. That's what we're going to do. So I want to try to focus on stuff that anyone can do. I want anyone with any skill level to be able to do these. And that's pretty much it. The last thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and paint these bases black, because I kind of like consistency with all of my miniature bases. I like for them to be all black. It's up to you. You can honestly leave them like that if you want to, but I find it to be just a little bit visually distracting. So I'm just going to take this matte black color right here, and then I'm just going to use that to cover the entirety of the bases and call it a day. All right. And that's pretty much it. I kind of want for those bases to fully dry, so I'm going to give them a few minutes.
Alright, and then like I said, you really want to make sure that they're really fully dry before moving on to this next step. I'm going to go ahead and add an anti-shine varnish, right here. So this is just a matte varnish. It's not glossy, it's not shiny, anything like that. We're just going to use it to sort of coat all of the miniatures, and that will just add an extra little layer of protection, you know, a little protective layer on all the minis. Make them hold up over time a little bit more. And it doesn't matter what brush that you use. In this case, I'm just going to use this big sort of flat chisel looking brush right here. But again, it doesn't really matter. And then you're just going to, you can even water it down a little bit, so you can take your brush and you can, you know, just get a little bit into the water there, and then mix it with the varnish, and then just go over the entirety of the miniatures here. And then honestly, that will about call it. That'll do it. Those will do your minis just fine. You've got some good, simple miniatures right here that anyone can paint, anyone can do, as long as you've got the right materials to do it. Very, very, very simplistic. And I'll tell you what, actually, before we do this, I'm going to go ahead and go over a little tiny trick here. Okay, so just take some sticky tack, you know, just take, you know, some regular, you know, sticky little substances right here. And then it honestly doesn't even matter what you use. I've got these right here. These are some sort of just plastic Crash Bandicoot looking crates a little bit. And what you can do is you can just stick the miniature on top of the crate. Trying to be careful here. Okay. Oh shoot, see, I got a little bit of paint off of the base there, but that's okay. And what you can do is, by doing this, you're making it so that you don't need to hold any part of the miniature when you're covering the layer that you are covering. Honestly, you should probably do this at the start of, while you were, you know, sort of making everything here, but it's not a huge deal, it doesn't matter too much. And then we'll just get right back to it. And then, yeah, like I said, you're just going to cover the entirety of the miniatures with this matte varnish, and this will just add an extra layer of protection to the miniature, also help to sort of solidify all the colors and just make everything look good and everything look sharp all around. And then that'll be it. Alright, and that will about do it. So let's rinse off everything and let everything dry.
Alright, so there you go, everybody. Those are the Doom Marines that come with the Doom board game. And I think that they turned out pretty well. You can go a little bit more in detail if you want. You can get the buttons on the magazine pouches there if you want to. You can just go over those with the bronze or gold or silver color, or whatever you'd like. Or you can just leave them. It doesn't really matter. If all you want is just table-ready miniatures to get the game going, then this is really all that you need. So thank you, everybody, for watching. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more miniatures getting painted. I'm going to knock out the entirety of the Doom board game, and then after that, I'm probably going to move on to the Resident Evil 2 board game. So you have that to look forward to as well. Yeah, thank you for watching. If you want to check out more random stuff that I do online, feel free to follow me on Twitter at PaintAMini. That's it. Thank you, everybody, for watching. We'll see you next week, where I'll probably knock out either the imps or the possessed soldiers. I haven't really decided which, and we'll go from there. So we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.